Hey everyone, welcome to Her Lunacy. I wanted to make this video before Friday morning on October 2nd. Um, this video is going to be about the Walking Dead Secret Lair. I don't think that's any kind of secret, that's kind of the hot button issue going on in Magic right now, aside from maybe the lack of bans in Standard, that sort of thing. What I do want to talk about is just kind of my general opinions on it, because I think it is a much bigger deal than even some people are making it out to be. What is a Secret Lair, right? Initially, we had thought that they were going to be kind of these alternate art reprint style drops. And they did that for a while, and then they decided not to. This particular Walking Dead Secret Lair, if you aren't familiar, actually has functional, let's say, legacy style tournament usable cards. They're black border, and I believe they're usable in Legacy, Vintage, Commander. I don't know if I'm missing anything else, but let's focus mostly on Commander, because that's all I particularly care about, especially in this particular instance. So if you don't know, this Walking Dead Secret Lair will be timed, I believe, from October 4th to October 12th, which is about a week, to kind of coincide with, I guess, a mini movie about The Walking Dead. Just to get it out of the way at the moment, I don't particularly hate The Walking Dead. I watched like the first 4 seasons or something and then just kind of fell off. I don't have any particular ill will towards the show or the characters or anything like that. And in fact, I think under a lot of circumstances, I would be totally okay with a Walking Dead Secret Lair. Just as I was okay with the weird tattoo needle set or whatever. I actually have one Secret Lair. It was one of the gods. I wanted to get the showcase style Afara for my Afara commander deck. So, I don't have a problem with them. I have a problem with this particular Walking Dead, and I think most people know why. It's direct from Wizards. It's a functional card. They're selling direct to you for a very limited time, and there's a lot of problems with that. There's also a couple of other issues that have kind of come up and have been dealt with. Today, Mark Rosewater, made a blog post kind of reiterating some stuff on the weekly MTG Twitch stream. Mostly how they will print or have the possibility to reprint these cards in quote-unquote functional Magic terms, which I believe to mean just printing the card as, let's say instead of Negan, you print someone as Noggin, and you have the same abilities, you just have them as a different name, and they said they would actually just go in and errata the rules of the game, or I guess I should say in Gatherer maybe, and make them the same card. And that's fine, though a little disappointing, for all the good they could be doing with errata. Obviously they changed the companion rule fairly recently, to kind of put out that fire, but there's a lot of stuff they could have been doing instead of having to do all these bans with errata, and they chose not to. Instead, they're choosing to facilitate this kind of weird licensing deal they have with AMC and Walking Dead. And additionally, these reprints that they're talking about, making it so, it'll function more or less like a Magic card, they're not guaranteed. They won't give any kind of date, and I think even Blake Rasmussen, the PR guy at Wizards, was like, well, let's see how many we sell before we talk about reprinting, which is kind of bizarre because the whole problem is if you don't reprint it, then these people are going to be screwed from the limited time availability that all the Secret Lairs have. So it's almost like he's saying, well, if you buy a lot, then maybe we'll reprint it, which is kind of crummy. So sure, there's the functionality issue, which they say they'll just fix. They'll just arm wave it and it'll magically happen. But this is going to have a lot of problems in other aspects of the game. And I think Wizards knows this, and I don't think they particularly care. First off, this is just going to circumvent local game stores, like just period. And there's always been the problem where Secret Lairs avoid them, the LGSs. But you could always get an alternate version of that particular card. Say, if you wanted, say, one of the Stargazer packs to get the Theros gods from the original Theros, you could probably just get the original ones. You wouldn't necessarily need to get the fancy Secret Lair. And in that case, you could just go to the store, get them, and sure, you wouldn't have the Secret Lair Fancy Edition one, but you would still have a functional game piece that does the equivalent. You can't do that with this Walking Dead stuff. There's no way to get original printings, quote unquote, because these are the original printings. I believe for the first time for sale directly from Wizards of the Coast. There's been a lot of stuff like Arena, Nathalni Dragon, and Mana Crypt, which were available directly from Wizards as like you bought a novel, and then you could send in like this receipt or something, and then you'd get a card mailed back to you. But I believe this is the first time that a tournament legal, official, quote-unquote canon, and we'll get to that, card has been just for sale directly by Wizards. So yeah, they're just cutting out the LGSs. There's also going to be a problem in the reprinting of these if people want the original ones. And I don't think it's actually going to happen. They've been kind of sort of tiptoeing around the possibility, but to get an actual reprint of these as they are, they're going to need to set some sort of licensing deal with AMC, who publish and produce the TV show The Walking Dead. And then maybe also the actual Walking Dead comic book creators. I don't know. Licensing is really complicated, and none of us really have an idea how any of that stuff is going to work on their side. And they're kind of wishy-washy, like, and it's this whole magic reprint functionality thing. I don't know. No one knows, and Wizards won't really make a firm commitment because I can't blame them. Who knows? If they've already got all the bad press from this, like, why bother? Like, just do it, get your profits, and sweep it under the rug. If you've played video games recently, you've probably caught on to a certain particular trend, which people call FOMO, or fear of missing out. This is basically when they'll have some sort of item, or character, or gun, or something that's only available for a limited time, and then once it's done, it's gone forever, or until the next event, or whatever. But it's getting more and more problematic. It's happening more and more. I mean, Destiny 2 is having actual paid chunks of content being vaulted away. That wasn't really a FOMO thing that they had planned to do, but it kind of turned out that way. And this is only going to be worse for the Walking Dead Secret Lair. Like, this is only going to be available for a week. And it's still going to be $50. And that's not huge. And obviously, if you don't want a Secret Lair for $50, don't get it. But the problem is, there's real tough times right now. And you may not be able to afford it this week, and you may have been able to afford it a week ago or in 2 weeks. But just because Wizards have chosen this particular time period, or maybe AMC, since it coincides with this weird mini movie or mini series, I don't know. Either way, the timing of it is very arbitrary, which means there's probably going to be a lot of people who want to get this and just can't, just for finance reasons in the particular time that it's being for sold. And that's the part of FOMO that is really dangerous. If they can spike the interest just by saying, oh, this is going to be gone, we don't know when it's going to be reprinted, that's a dangerous precedent to set. That may be one of the bigger things people aren't necessarily thinking about. We've already seen that there's been the Ikoria Godzilla monsters. We've already seen the Ikoria Godzilla cards. And now we have direct Walking Dead cards. It's only going to get worse, right? And if we kind of just let them do this FOMO thing, it's only going to get worse. That's just how Wizards is if they have a small hit, they're going to make it a huge deal. They don't play very well going back and forth. They just take and take and take. And if they can use something to their advantage, they are going to. And I can't blame them. They're a giant company and they have to make money. So there's a lot of problems with the Secret Lair, just from the Secret Lair construct and how it's made and how few copies there are going to be. These Secret Lairs aren't like mass produced, and honestly, they're so far behind. Who knows? You're probably going to get these cards if you do order the Secret Lair Walking Dead, and they're probably going to be damaged. That's just how they've been. All the foils have been almost U-shaped. Even my Stargazing set. Sucks, but what are you going to do? There's also this other problem that I think is maybe more unique to Magic the Gathering, in that we have the Vorthos crowd. if there's ever a character in Magic, it's going to be evaluated and info is going to be dug up on them because people want to know the story behind these characters. And I don't blame them. I don't get into it too much personally. I mean, I know Nicol Bolas is a bad guy. You know what I mean? But honestly, the inclusion of a couple of the characters, and look, in any kind of fantasy setting, there's going to be bad guys and they're going to have done bad things. And I think that's something that we accept as a culture and is something that we are okay to some degree lionizing. Darth Vader is a very popular character, the Joker, any kind of anti-hero, Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? Whatever. Obviously, he's not in the same league, but my problem is with Negan, the character Negan. Obviously, yes, he's done some bad things. He's killed people, and he's very violent, and that's kind of the nature of the world, which, by the way, Aaron Forsyth says is just a adjacent to Magic environment. But the bigger problem is Negan has done a lot of really creepy stuff. For those who don't know, he does have a harem living with him, who are all married to him. And they are kept there basically, it's a working relationship to be with him. He will often take wives, and I'm having trouble just describing it because it's really gross. He will take wives and then provide that particular person's former family with some security. I believe he has one wife who needs it because she needs insulin, and he's the only one who can control the flow of meds. It's a lot of stuff like that. And he's not necessarily violent about it, but it's very coercive and very cruel and very despicable and very real. This is not a guy getting a hold of an Elder Scroll and trying to destroy all planeswalkers by using the Immortal Sun and yada, yada, yada. And he's not a dragon. He's just a guy from Earth where there's just alternate future, right? Okay. And we as the Magic community, I guess being the players, but also Wizards of the Coast, recently pseudo-banned Noah Bradley for not necessarily doing things as bad as that, but not far from it. And if we're going to have this guise of Magic the Gathering being for everyone and trying to get these new players and all that stuff, that all sounds fine. And you're a victim of something like this, and then someone just casually drops a Negan on the board. Is that really inclusive? Is that really trying to get as many people who want to play to the table? Or is that going to drive people away? And that's the problem. Like, people in the Vorthos community are going to find this stuff. And they're going to bring it to the front. And it's going to be a big problem. Maybe not now, because right now I think most of the problem is in the functionality and on the money side. But eventually, this stuff's going to come out. It seems more and more that we have this disconnect between Wizards and the people playing its game and buying its products. Let's be real. If you did happen to catch the weekly MTG Weekly stream on Twitch, it was weird. It was weird. I don't know who that was for, but the more I watched it, the more I felt that I was not seen. And I had been pretty vocal about it. And I don't think I'd been too unreasonable about the whole situation. And it's like they weren't even talking to me. It's like they were talking to a child. Yeah. I think at a couple times, one of the gentlemen on there had mentioned how they're trying to get new customers, then quickly backtracked, or I should say elaborated and said, new customers, I mean new players, new community, I guess. And there was also the point where Aaron Forsyth had mentioned that we couldn't print them as silver bordered cards because there's a stigma that goes with silver border cards, and you kind of have to rule zero them to get to play them in Commander, and they wanted to just get around that, which I think is really scary, maybe overreacting, but that's how I feel at the moment. When you have a separate body and they've instituted rules, and we know there has been this long tension between people like Mark Rosewater and the rules committee for Commander. Maro's been wanting to have, hybrid mana be able to be either both colors or the individual colors. So in theory, you could have, a red-white Boros hybrid color card in a mono-white or mono-red deck. That's just one example. But when they just outright come and say they're trying to get around stuff like Rule Zero, that's a little concerning because Wizards is terrible at managing formats. I don't know if you know this, but they just, once a format has run its course, they just kind of let it die. And the one that they do constantly monitor and kind of foster, they don't do well. And a lot of the stuff that they're doing recently with Commander is very sketchy. It's very... I worry at some point there's going to be a line kind of drawn in how they're people that play old school Magic, which is just like 93 to 94. There may be the pre-Commander designed period, so I guess it would be maybe from 93 to, let's say, 2016, something like that. But yeah, that kind of move scares me. Either way. I guess at this point, there's really only one thing to talk about, and that's what happens next. I mentioned before the RC has the decision in the morning. They've already made it at this point, and they're just going to post it at the Commander website. And I'm sure they've listened to every side, 3 ways, back and forth, and deliberated for hours and hours. What I hope will happen, I hope they ban them and let them Rule Zero them in. I hate to have people not be able to play the cards that they want. This is a bold step from Wizards, one that I'm not entirely comfortable with. Mostly because I've seen how video games have gone down this path and how it's, I don't want to say ruined them. It's caused them a lot of damage. And I don't want Magic to have that kind of damage done on it for an advertising campaign. What do I think will happen? I honestly have no idea. If you look at just kind of the meat and potatoes of it, the cards aren't bannable. They're not super strong. They're not going to probably make any kind of weird turn 1 kill constantly or anything like that. So it's not bannable on strength. It's purely availability. Being on availability and just the general distaste that comes with something like this. I'd like to see a banning, but I'm also kind of preparing myself for life where there is no banning. It sounds a little drastic, but I mean, we're going to have to start making decisions on our own if the RC doesn't step in here. This maybe have like your own rule -1 type thing and just come to the table with a little sheet and be like, look, this is where I draw the line. I'm not playing against these Walking Dead cards. And you can also add in stuff that you would normally do under Rule Zero. I don't want to play against stacks. I don't want to play against mass land destruction, whatever. I think ultimately this is just going to be another part of that Rule Zero discussion, which should really be governing this in the first place. Anyways, I've rambled on for a little bit longer than I'd like. Hopefully this makes sense once it gets posted, and maybe I'll have a follow-up after the RC make their decision. Either way, I just felt kind of compelled to do something. I don't know. That's kind of the worst part of this situation, is Wizards really has all the control. The people don't, and we're just hoping the RC can do something. Anyways, thanks for watching. Have a nice day. We'll see you in the next video.